everyone, it's Krista. I am doing my TPE presentation on TPE number 2, which is creating and maintaining effective environments for student learning. So I wanted to pick this one because I'm going into math. So we all know math isn't everybody's favorite subject. Not everybody's cup of tea. Some people just don't get it. Some people just don't like it and others love it. So kind of all around the board with that one. It may be the same way for your content as well. So I wanted to pick this one to learn how to engage my students, have them feel included and that the environment that they're learning in is going to be the best one that they can learn in. So just hopping right on into it, the main points of this TPE is first to promote student growth. This is all the way around, so social, emotional, developmental, creating responsibility within each student, but also making them feel respected and included in the classroom. Second is to create productive learning environments. So this is just to make sure that the environment that they're in is, positive. It's going to be productive for them. They're going to learn what they can learn at that age level. And then third is to establish, maintain, and monitor inclusive learning environments. So this is really gearing towards different races, different genders, different backgrounds, different sexual preferences, different anything that a student may not be the same as the person next to them. This is just to include them, make them feel that they're heard, they're important, and to make them feel that they're equally as important as the person who is different sitting next to them. Fourth one is to know how to access resources to support your students. So any of the students that I just kind of mentioned, as well as some that are going through trauma, have experienced homeless or foster in the foster system, any of those, to know how to support them, how to be there for them, and to support them in that way and to get them the best help that they can. Fifth is to maintain high expectations for the content that they're learning. So you're not going to give a 10th grader material from a 12th grader. You're not going to give 6th graders material from 10th graders. You're going to make sure that the stuff they're learning is appropriate for where they're at. And lastly is to establish clear expectations in your classroom behaviorally. So that's when the teacher interacts with the students and the students interact with each other. It's important to have those guidelines set so they know it's expected of them. So the study that the article I looked at was called Perceived Climate and School-Age Children's Life Satisfaction and How the Role of Learning Environment in the Classrooms. I thought this was really important because TPE2 does touch on the differences of students. So by learning how a majority of students learn and how school kind of plays a factor in life satisfaction, that ultimately is going to kind of correlate the two or connect the two together. So what this article kind of talks about is the classroom climate, or another word, environment. So the first one's the organization, structure, and teaching and learning practices. So just how students learn, what has historically proven good for certain ages, not for others. This mentioned that school-age students actually responded better to high teacher monitoring and higher teacher demands, whereas adolescents actually found that to be the opposite. So they felt that high teacher monitoring and higher demand created more pressure for them, which created a lower self-esteem or well-being for those kids. So really important also just to keep in mind what age group you're doing. If you decide to do middle school, then you're going to have kind of the mix between the two, but if you're in high school, it's important to realize that, okay, maybe breathing over their shoulder isn't going to be the best way for them to learn. Second is interpersonal relationships to schoolwork. So this is student interaction. So I remember I always loved to work with my friends in school during any kind of assignment. But I know not everybody learns like that and likes doing that, but it has been showed that there's more of a positive outlook on that, and they feel like they have a higher sense of well-being once they do when they do have those interpersonal relationships. And I think it can kind of like build a gap by creating like an open dialogue, like you're forcing students to work together that maybe don't necessarily normally interact outside of the classroom, just can create a better environment for all of the students involved. um, and third was the goals and value of classmates towards schoolwork. So I thought this one was really interesting because it showed that classmates around you shape your ambition. So if I see Sally working hard and Sally getting an A, um, and Billy to my left is working really hard and he's getting an A, like I want to work really hard and I want to get an A. So um, just kind of shows like the students that are around you do have an impact on your ambition and your schoolwork. So throughout this um, study, it kind of just talked about how the classroom is the beginning to life satisfaction. So it says it's the most like psychosocial environment, and it's the most important. So this has a direct effect on learning, cooperation with each other, competition, school engagement, school participation. But also, once we hit the adolescent ages, it has a direct effect on beliefs, emotions, habits. Peer pressure starts making its way into the mix around that age as well. So that's really, really important to keep in mind when you're, creating those expectations in your classroom. Want to make sure that, there are guidelines because you don't want things to get out of hand when it comes to just stuff that's happening outside of the classroom with their friends. This also showed that during that age, adolescents are actually going through a lot of self-reflection, looking to see if they're doing the right thing and they're building relationships with other people. And that's when the development with their classmates, starts escalating and becoming more relevant in their lives. And this is all kind of also where they start comparing each other, themselves to each other. So they see other people doing things or having things that maybe they don't have or don't do, and that's when their self-esteem starts to become more relevant in the classroom. So it's really important to remember that for that age group as well, so that when you are doing your lessons, you're being able to include everybody, or at least try to make those students who typically kind of isolate themselves or don't actively interact with students, make them feel involved as well. So this also was really interesting because it showed that higher satisfaction in school and in life came with school connectedness. So if a student felt connected to the teacher and connected to the classroom and connected to their school, it showed that they would have a higher like satisfaction in school, so they would feel better about what they did, and that would help carry on and build a higher life satisfaction. I remember when I would get a good grade back, like it was the best day. It was so exciting. And when I had really bad tests, I would be really upset. So I definitely remember these kind of feelings directly correlating with school. And so I think that's definitely important in our classroom, that we remember that, and we try to make it a positive environment for everybody. So I mean, overall, this study just kind of showed that class environment is so important, because life satisfaction is closely linked to educational aspirations and educational engagement. And later on down the line, those that educational part of it turns into life. So educational turns into work and turns into kind of the rest of the path for your life. So it's really important that we are creating that environment that is very inclusive, and that in those high school years that we remember that not all students are going to be the same, and not all students are going to learn the same, talk the same, dress the same, want to go down the same paths, but knowing that all of them feel as if they have a place in your classroom is going to be what you will get the most out of your students, is that's when you'll get the most out of your students. So thanks for watching, and I put down the questions below to answer on the discussion board.